Mario Kart 8 Deluxe has a total of 23 power-ups, some being amazing and others being not so great. Through the following criteria points of practicality, protection, and raw power score, I will rank each power-up from number 23 all the way up to number 1. Let's get straight to it. Blooper being the worst item in the game should be no surprise here to anyone. The power-up is practically useless as it does not even fully blind people. You could still see, albeit it does cover some of your screen, but not enough to cause you to say, drive off the track. You could also remove the effect of the blooper by either using a mushroom or just going over a boost panel. I think this warrants the blooper a 1-star practicality score. And while I'm at it, also a 1-star protection score. Blooper just appears out of nowhere and immediately is like, yup, you're on your own, bud. As far as power score goes, 1 star. Blooper's main objective as a power-up is to blind people, but it does it so poorly that it just makes this power-up end up being laughably bad. There's no sense of power given off by the blooper, and for all the reasons mentioned earlier, the blooper is the worst power-up in Mario Kart 8. You know what? Scratch that. Mario Kart history. The coin power-up is 1 coin, but somehow gives you 2 coins? How generous of Nintendo. But in all seriousness, it's a pretty annoying power-up to get. I mean, getting this in first is always a nightmare, as it gives you no protection at all. So it ends up leaving you open to a variety of items, mainly the red shell. Seeing that red shell icon after pulling a coin from an item box is probably a top 5 scariest moments in Mario Kart for me. As for its raw power score, the coin is supposed to give you a coin, which, yeah, it does do that exactly, but who am I kidding? It's a 1-star power score. You might as well just collect coins from the ground. And lastly, it's practicality. There's no scenario in this game which I would want a coin over any other item besides a blooper, but that's a given for all power-ups in this game. It's a huge waste of an item slot and puts you in harm's way, so for that reason, it's getting a 1-star practicality. Overall, it's safe to say I would much rather just collect coins from the ground than get the coin power-up through an item box. When making this list, I wasn't too sure whether or not to add the feather, as it's exclusive to battle mode, but I thought I might as well chuck it in here just to push blooper back another spot. As for the feather's credentials, they're not all that great either. They're pretty trash. For starters, let's talk about what it does do. Not all that bad, which is potentially protect you from oncoming items by making you jump over them. 2 stars. But you cannot tell me that the feather is practical at all. There's no scenario in the battle mode where you need to be jumping other than for style points, but unfortunately for the feather, there is no style points category, so I do not care. As far as power score goes, the simple eye test shows you that the feather emits very little, if not no, power at all. The feather is a fun power-up, but it's more gimmicky than good. Odds are, if you aren't getting a coin in first place, you're probably getting the banana. The banana can be thrown forward to snipe opponents, or placed behind you to either hit an opponent from behind, or placed in a cheeky place like an item box. Its practicality is actually there a bit, as there are uses for it in certain scenarios, like as mentioned before, using it behind you to hit another person. As for the sniping people, or even getting someone to run into an already placed down banana, it's not nearly as practical. I would much rather say just get a red shell and hit them like that rather than try to aim with the banana. With that all being said, a 2-star practicality sounds fair to me. As for its protection, the banana also provides some coverage from behind, but it's still not enough for things like boomerangs or pretty much any attacking item in the game. It is still some protection though, but it's quite literally the least possible protection possible. I feel 2 stars protection showcases this well. Its raw power score though is atrocious. The banana is already limited to being able to affect/hit 1 person max, but add that on top of having such a small hitbox that is easily avoidable, might I add, and you get a horrible power-up. The banana is a true bare minimum of the title power-up. Turns out having 3 of something does not matter if it's something as mid as the banana. The triple banana is by no means any more practical than the single banana. Sure, you have more chances to maybe make a play, but the item within itself just sucks so much that it still does not make a difference. 2-star practicality. Where it does improve though is protection. It provides decent protection actually, as you have 3 bananas now as opposed to 1, but just like the single banana, it's not enough to stop things like boomerangs, bombs, or pretty pretty much half the items in the game. I still must give it a 3-star protection score though, as it does provide strong protection against things like triple reds, which are a really strong power up in this game. Unfortunately though, the weak does not fall far from the banana tree, as the triple bananas is just as delicate as the single. Its only improvement is having more bananas than the single banana, but I believe that's no reason to justify any changes with its power score. 1-star power score. The banana power up just sucks. Give us giant banana back, Nintendo. The piranha plant munches on opponents, causing them to spin out, and also chomps on coins, and could give you boosts either passively or by clicking the item button. My biggest gripe with the piranha plant is its practicality, and that's because the AI for it is just outright dumb. I also don't like how you can't get rid of the power up. This really sucks, especially when you have a really great item behind it that could be very useful for the scenario you are in. The dumb plant is just always clogging the way. The boost it provides you is actually pretty nice, but it's still no mushroom. I'm feeling a 2 stars for the practicality score. As for its protection, it's non-existent at best. 1-star protection. But as far as raw power score, it's actually pretty good. 3 stars for its power score. The combination of being able to attack nearby enemies, have small boosts, and pick up coins along the way is overall good. As for the plant overall though, its stats are not so great, as you could tell, besides that raw power score. The blue shell, upon use, dashes down the track and chases down the first place player and attacks them. So this placement may be a hot take for some of you, but please hear me out here. The blue shell is just the epitome of not so good / mid. Its practicality score is a 1-star. A power up which helps other racers just as much as you, if not more, is not a good power up to have in any scenario. You tend to get the blue shell when you're closer to last place, so if anything, you're helping the people who are in second and third far more than you're helping yourself. Maybe if first place is front running, it could help you, but at that point, if first place has built that big of a lead, the race is like over 90% of the time. As for its protection, it provides literally no protection whatsoever and actually harms you if you are the person in first place and you use it on yourself. 1-star protection. I do have to give it credit where credit is due though, and say that the blue shell is still really powerful. When it does finally reach the person in first, it does absolutely decimate them and anyone foolish enough to stand near first place. 4 stars for the power score. You know what? 5 stars for the power score. It literally can't be stopped except from a super horn or any perfectly timed mushroom. You know what? I think 4 stars is good for its power score. Overall, I think the nostalgic reasons for fearing the blue shell and remembering it being such a huge menace back in the day are the reasons people may have way more positive opinions on the blue shell than I do. Still, I do have to admit, the blue shell is a powerful power-up. The single green shell is a power-up that you don't mind getting in first, but get annoyed at when you get it in pretty much any other place. It is not that bad in actuality, and is just slightly mid in all 3 categories. For starters, let's talk about its practicality. 2 stars. If I'm in first place, I would much rather have a green shell over things like a banana or a coin, but it's still not the most practical power-up as it requires you to aim and predict where your opponents will be, while also taking in obstacles that could be in the way. It's slightly more practical for someone with a lot of skill, like me. You know, I could easily land a green shell to someone's dome. For anyone less skilled, it may not be as easy. The protection it provides is much like the single banana in that it provides some protection, but it's literally the least amount of it possible. 2 stars. But opposed to the banana, the green shell's power score is slightly there, I would say. Slightly. With the green shell, you have room for errors as it bounces off the walls and other objects. The banana does not. 2 stars power score. To conclude, the green shell is somewhat good all around. The Fire Flower grants you the ability to shoot flaming balls for a short duration. The Fire Flower is best used when in a cluster of people, so it gives you a chance to hit as many people as possible. The sheer amount of fireballs you can shoot out in such a quick time means this power-up is really practical. I would give the Fire Flower 3 stars for its practicality. For protection, I feel 2 stars is fair. It's alright for taking out items on a straight line, but while drifting, it gets a lot harder to protect protect yourself. Also, it does not have any sort of defense against things such as boomerangs, bombs, or even a well-timed green shell, or just triple reds. Its raw power score, on the other hand, is pretty decent. 3 stars decent, in fact. It could easily hit multiple opponents and could be used to hit people who are trailing you as well. I feel the only thing stopping its raw power score from being a 4-star is just the lack of its duration. The power is very much there on the fire flower, but unfortunately it's just very short-lived, so I can't give it a 4-star. Overall, the fire flower to me is a decent power-up in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. Unlike the difference of 1 to 3 bananas, the difference of 1 to 3 green shells is actually pretty substantial. There is some not so good about it, but let's start first with the good. 3-star protection. The protection it provides you is solid. Having 3 green shells around you, on top of the regular protection ability of the green shell, warrants a 3-star protection stat. The raw power score for the triple green shell is also a 3-star. Through this one power-up, you're able to cause a sizable amount of mayhem and damage to the opposing racers. Now, on to the not so good. Having 3 shells and using them all at once in a confined area, you would think is a good way to hit some people, right? In practice, this sometimes can end up with you getting hit by your own green shells if you're not careful. The far more practical thing to do is select your shots one by one, but at that point, it's just as practical as the single shell. So although 3 green shells are good for protection and power, you still have to be careful while using it, or just be an absolute sniper. The boomerang flower allows you to get the ability of a boomerang. Shocker. The boomerang flower is a power-up I've mentioned a lot before, and that is because it's quite literally the most in-between, in-the-middle, decent power-up in this game. For example, the ability to pierce through opposing racers and items and still hit the racer as well is an example of why this item deserves its raw power score to be 4 stars at least. But then you realize you only get 3 shots with this thing. Man, that's pretty mid. 2 stars. But then you go, wait, it's both mid and really good. 3-star raw power score. As for its protection, it does a good, not great, not poor, but a good job at being able to defend you from behind and in front. As mentioned before, the boomerang can pierce through items, and that includes things like shells, bananas, but it can't protect you from most strong items like stars or bullet bills. And it doesn't really give you any sort of invulnerability to anything even remotely strong. Its practicality is also a 3-star, as you would assume on paper, this power-up seems like a cheat code, but the limit to 3 shots and having to aim and time your shots effectively are just some of the reasons why. To me, I feel I had to bump this power-up down to 3 stars for the practicality score. My final thoughts on this power-up is that it's both great and trash at the same time. The golden mushroom allows you to spam over a dozen boosts over a pretty long duration. I know right now people may be surprised that the golden mushroom is so low, but in all honesty, the golden mushroom is not all that great, as it will be shown in my criteria points. But let's just start first with what it does absolutely amazing, and that is its raw power score. The raw power of the golden mushroom is just insane. You could cut through huge portions of some tracks you're playing on, and also it lasts pretty long, which is a double-edged sword in my opinion, but we'll get to that later. For now, that's a really good thing when it comes to its raw power score. In terms of protection, it's a mushroom, so at face value, there's no real protection, but it does help you dodge a blue shell, which is a really powerful power-up. So for that alone, I'll give it a 2-star protection. And lastly, we have the practicality. This is where my gripe with this golden mushroom appears. My gripe is the duration. I could recall so many times where I had a race in the bag, but the golden mushroom just refused to go away no matter how much I spammed it, and I got shocked. This, along with how some tracks just don't have any places where the golden mushroom could excel, makes the golden mushroom have a 3-star practicality. The truth is, in most tracks, you just don't need the amount of boosts you are given. Overall, the golden mushroom is a power-up which I feel is too powerful for its own good. Just out of the top 10, we have the most menacing item itself. We have the single red shell. Let's start with what the red shell is slightly below average in. Protection, 2 stars. Yeah, it gives you about as much protection as a single green, or even a banana. Also, hitting an item from the front of you is a challenge with the red shell, so it might be even slightly worse than the green shell, but I think 2 stars is fair. But the red shell having its auto aim abilities is what gives the red shell a 5-star practicality in my opinion. You could just chuck this thing in literally any scenario and the red shell will just lock onto the enemy in front of you and sends him spinning out. Its lock on is literally aimbot, but in Mario Kart. So if that's not peak practical for any player, I do not know what is. Its raw power score is 4 stars. The aimbot capabilities are a big part of the high score, but the reason I'm not giving it a 5-star is that it could be blocked by things as simple as just bananas. So although the red shell icon does strike the utmost fear in a person's soul, it can still be easily stopped with something as simple as a banana. If only there were more red shells. Breaking into the top 10, we have the single mushroom. Wait. Do you have the single mushroom over the golden mushroom? This is what you may be yelling at this point, and I understand, as the golden mushroom is dozens of single mushrooms in one item. But where the golden mushroom fails and the single mushroom succeeds in is the practicality. You see, the single mushroom does not overstay its welcome like the golden mushroom. If you need to, you could easily cycle out of it if you need another item behind it, and it still is more than enough to pull off most shortcuts in the game. You do not need dozens of mushrooms for most shortcuts in this game, meaning that it's just not as practical when it comes to that either. The single mushroom does exactly what you want from it, making it one of the most practical items in the game. 5 stars practicality. As for the protection, just like the golden mushroom, it could dodge a blue shell, and for that reason, I think it warrants a 2-star protection. And for raw power, I'm feeling 4 stars. It gives you a pretty powerful boost that is usually long enough to take most shortcuts in the game. It's no golden mushroom in terms of power, but it's still nothing to scoff at. Overall, the mushroom is just good enough to crack into the top 10. The boo turns you invisible to other players for a long duration and also steals items from a player ahead of you. I honestly feel that the boo is very underrated by many. Its protection capabilities are literally as perfect as it gets, as it protects you from everything. Someone throws a red shell at you, oh, no worries, it goes right past you. Someone throw a blue shell at you, oh, who cares, it does nothing. There's a bullet bill and it goes right past you. Someone got a shock, who cares, you're invincible. The protection the boo provides is top of the line when it comes to this game. 5 stars for the protection. When it comes to practicality, it's pretty good as well. All the stuff I mentioned earlier applies here, but the stuff that kind of brings it down a bit is not only how you waste a potential item slot for some time, but you also can't off-road with this one like the star power-up. It still is very practical to use in any scenario, so I feel a 3-star practicality score is more than fair. As for its raw power score, this is where I'm most iffy with it, because I believe the main objective of the boo is to steal items, which yes, it does do that, but the items you end up getting from the boo just tend to suck. Like, in what scenario do I need a banana when I'm back here? It is a power-up that is suffering from its own success. Turns out having 3 is better than 1 and infinity. But hey, it's for good reason, as the triple mushroom is just super practical. You remember all those shortcuts from before that you could pull off with the single mushroom? Well, you could do all those and even more with the triple shrooms. And you still don't lose the ability to cycle through them like you do with the golden mushroom. This power-up just gets right what the other 2 mushrooms don't. 5 stars for its practicality. As for its protection, it's the same as the other mushrooms. It could protect you from a blue shell, but that's pretty much about it. 2 stars for its protection. As for its raw power score, this power-up produces a lot of potential shortcuts. The sheer distance you could cover with the triple shrooms is actually really good. It's much better than the single shroom, but it's not as good as the golden shroom. And for that reason, I think a 4-star raw power score is well deserved for the triple mushroom. Overall, I feel the triple shrooms is the best amount of mushrooms in this game. The Babam power-up lets loose a Babam who ends up exploding like a bomb. Yeah, this power-up's pretty self-explanatory. This is another one where I feel some people may be looking at me like I'm crazy, but I'm here to tell you guys that the Babam is actually pretty great. But let's just start with its weakest point first, and that is its protection, which is a 3-star. Sure, you aren't given pure invincibility like the Boo, but what you are given with this power-up is that it can decimate multiple items behind you. It is also very practical, as a literal baby could throw up a bomb and hit someone with the blast. Throwing one backwards into a crowd of people is even easier, or you could just wait for someone to run into it. For its practicality, the Babam gets a 5-star. As for its raw power score, I think 4 stars is fair. It can not only hit multiple opponents, but it also has a very big explosion that ends up lasting for a few seconds. The only gripe I have with the Babam's power score is that it doesn't last super long, and I believe there still is some room for it to be even more powerful. But for what it is, the Babam is still a great power-up. The Super Horn allows you to annihilate most oncoming power-ups, most notably the blue shell. The Super Horn is really good for being able to destroy all the shells, whether it be green shells, red shells, or the otherwise unbreakable power-up. The blue shell is just an example of the great power the Super Horn holds. Not to mention, being able to do drive-by horns with this thing to assert dominance over your enemies, it adds to the power of this item. As for its protection, I think a 4-star protection is fair. Because of the reasons I mentioned earlier, the only thing keeping me from giving it a 5-star protection is that it does not leave you fully invulnerable to things like shocks and also well-timed red shells. In terms of practicality, the Super Horn is extremely easy to use with a surprisingly nice window of duration. Even when I misclick the power-up a bit too early, it still usually lasts enough time to break whatever is coming my way. The use of it is very simple and requires very little knowledge of how to play. I think 4 stars is fair for its practicality as well. Overall, by the stats, you can see the Super Horn is the jack of all trades when it comes to power-ups in this game. The Crazy 8 grants you 8 of the best top-notch items in this game. Wait, hold on, wait a minute. What are these power-ups, Nintendo? A coin? A banana? A blooper? What do you guys expect me to do with these? At least you gave me a star, so you know what? 4-star practicality. As for its protection, I'm kind of in the same boat here as the practicality, as you gave me a star, but a lot of these items are just in the way, and if someone also runs into the circling Babam, I could explode and lose everything. So I think 4-star protection is fair, but I have to give Nintendo some credit because the raw power score on this one is easily 5 stars. The amount of power at your disposal is just mind-blowing. I mean, you have the red shell, the Babam, and of course the star. This item is literally so easy to use. You do not even have to be within a certain range like the Super Horn. All you have to do is... And if you want to be even more annoying, you just send another one after a few seconds. And then you could just do it again. Pretty practical in my opinion. 5 stars. The protection it provides you is the same as the triple green shells, and that is just decent. So I think a 3-star for the protection of the triple red is fair. But where it shines once again is in its raw power score. Easily 5 stars raw power score. Has to be one of the most annoying power-ups in the game. Overall, the triple red is a top 5 power-up. The star grants you invincibility and the ability to punch right through enemies. The star is slightly better than the Crazy 8 in my opinion because of practicality and also protection, which are both 5 stars. The star's practicality is one of a kind. It allows you to run through enemies, take shortcuts, and go off-road with no speed lost at all. Anyone playing could easily use the powers of the Starman as it just maxes out you as a driver. This makes your life a whole lot easier as a driver by not only improving things like speed, but also your handling. In terms of protection, the star is hands down one of the best, if not the best protection power-up in this game. Nothing could stop the star from bullet bills, blue shells, or even shocks. For its raw power score, I think the star's ability to turn you into a menace and chase others around is enough to warrant the star a 4-star power score. The only thing holding it back from being 5 stars is that you have a pretty small hitbox, and it is difficult at times to show your power, as others are not too too keen to see, and they sometimes can avoid it, but still, it's still really powerful. The star is as close to perfect as you could get without being perfect. But these next two items though are actually perfect power-ups. The lightning power-up zaps all other racers, turning them tiny. It also removes power-ups from their item slots that have not been used yet. And it also removes most items that are being used currently. Now the top two for me was very difficult to pick from, as I see both of these power-ups having a case for being the best in the game. But for the sake of the list, one of them had to go second place. And for now, second place is reserved for the lightning, better known as the shock. The shock is quite literally the most practical power-up there is, as all you do is click a button and boom, you just turn the whole lobby tiny. It's just so straightforward, yet so extremely effective. The protection it provides you comes from shutting down any possible enemies that could be coming to you. And God forbid, if they haven't used an item yet, they're in for a world of sadness, as they're gonna see their items go to waste. I think for these reasons alone, the shock deserves a 5 stars for the protection. As for its raw power score, must I say any more? It literally has the power to turn the whole lobby tiny, demolishing so many items, and it's causing all this mayhem at once. The lightning slash the shock is easily one of, if not the best power-up in Mario Kart history. But my loyal viewers, I still have one more item above this, and I think you guys might know what the item is. The bullet bill turns you, the player, into a bullet bill, taking you on a journey across the whole track while giving you the ability to bump others along the way. To me, the bullet bill is the best power-up in Mario Kart history, hands down. Its practicality is through the roof. 5 stars for its practicality. By the click of a button, you are automatically carried through the whole track, and you could literally put down your controller if you wanted to. You could also do bullet bill extensions, which on some tracks feels like literally cheating. It's almost as if you'd never have to play the game when the bullet bill is active. On Cheeseland, I could literally go grab a water bottle, come back, and still have some of the bullet bill left. It's the epitome of practicality in Mario Kart. Same goes for its protection, because you can literally not be stopped by anything when it comes to a bullet bill. A super horn? No. A blue shell? No. Not even second place the lightning has any effect on the bullet bill. Matter of fact, even the bullet bill itself can't stop the bullet bill. That's how good its protection is. As for its raw power score, it is also 5 stars. You ride around comfortably, automatically hitting people along the way, only turning your joystick to hit even more people and cause more mayhem. And you're doing all of this while covering an insane amount of ground. The bullet bill is truly the #1 power-up in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. Sayonara.